Hi everyone, this is Dipti Borkar. I'm the co-founder and chief product officer at Ahana. Well, it's December already, and that means in the tech world, predictions time of the year. One of my predictions for 2022 is that all data warehouses will be augmented with an open data lake, and some users will skip the warehouse altogether. Well, you thought that the database wars were a thing of the past. New wars are just beginning, this time between the data lake and the data warehouse. Now, Snowflake is a great warehouse. It has helped many users transition from on-prem into the cloud and is quite easy to use. However, some of the challenges with high costs and lock-in still remain. Well, that's where data lakes come in. Open data lakes in particular, what I'm calling Open Flake. Open data lakes enable users a lot more flexibility with open source, open formats, open interfaces like SQL, and open clouds, meaning you can run it on any cloud. So what is the stack? What does the open data lake stack look like? Well, first you have the storage layer at the bottom. S3 is a ubiquitous storage layer, incredibly cheap and affordable. On top of that, increasingly you have table formats or transaction managers, which allow for updating and deleting data increasingly, as well as to run transactions on top of object stores. Then you have the system catalogs like AWS Glue and Hive Metastore that allow for schemas and the mapping between objects and databases, tables, and columns. And then you have the heart of the system, which is the query engine. Presto is becoming a de facto query engine for interactive queries. And it puts all these components together, bringing true value out of your data for your business analysts, your data scientists, product managers, marketers, and so on. So with this stack, you get a lot more flexibility, and you can also run other workloads like machine learning with TensorFlow and others on top of the same data and the data lake. Managed services for Presto, like Ahana, make it really easy to deploy open data lakes in the cloud, and also allow for integration with security and governance services and tools like AWS Lake Formation, as well as Apache Ranger. So now that a lot of the workloads from the warehouse world can be run on open data lakes, why wait? Let's get started. Welcome to the new world of Open Flake. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Hello everyone, this is Miguel Valdes Faura. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bonitasoft, and I'm glad to be here today to share my top 3 predictions for 2022. So number one, it's about the link between process automation and cloud deployments. With the maturity of technologies like Docker, like Kubernetes, and all the frameworks that helps developers to build and deploy cloud-native applications, we're also going to see that trend apply to process automation platforms. And we're going to be talking more and more about autonomous apps, independent apps. We're going to be talking more about lightweight, embeddable apps that are produced by a process automation platform, but that they are independent one from the other. Number two is more about the data. We have been talking about data analytics for a while, and there are also mature technologies on that respect to help people make better decisions with the data that they have. Next year, I think is the year of process analytics, so the subset of data that is really related to how your processes are behaving, and so you visualize your processes, you can monitor your processes, and the good news is that people are going to be potentially leveraging mature standards like the BPMN2 standard to represent a process in your organization, but also to focus a little bit more on how those processes are executing on a day-to-day basis, so you can point out inefficiencies. And number 3 is going to be more about the employee recognition. The natural evolution of remote work, which is now based on trust and autonomy, and of course has been accelerated with the pandemic. Keeping employees engaged and happy is not anymore about providing perks. It's about keeping an employee-centered company and culture that recognizes the work that is done by individuals. So we're going to see a lot of innovation in that respect, and potentially connection between more traditional recognition platforms and new technologies. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.
Hi everyone. My name is Dennis Zimmer. I'm co-founder and CTO of Codenotary. Thanks, David, for giving us the opportunity to share also our predictions. Codenotary brought you the IMDb, the immutable database that is open source, but also we provide tools and services to protect your software supply chain. That means creating bill of materials for everything that is source code, but also binary and in a container. But we also make sure that everything is stored completely tamper-proof, so nobody can really change, or an attacker could potentially change what he just compromised. When it comes to predictions for 2022, one thing became extremely clear already end of 2020 and during 2021, and that is that the software attacks are mainly happening in the software supply chain. So it doesn't matter if the end result is a ransomware attack or the end result is a compromised software that opens some kind of a control service where somebody can remotely control your computer or in a data center, maybe even worse things. And the attack happens in public repositories, in private repositories, in very popular open source code, but also eventually in digitally signed closed source. So I assume that 2022 is all about making sure that you know all the software components that you buy, that you use, that you create yourself, including all the dependencies and the versions and so on, so that you always make sure in a second or let's say a couple of minutes, you know, am I affected of a compromised dependency attack or any malware or maybe some code base you don't want to use anymore. But we also are going to see much more intelligence when it comes to the automation process of your CI/CD, intelligently assume what could potentially happen, creating some kind of boundaries like sandboxes. But we also see more and more intelligence when it comes to coding. So automatically detecting what dependencies are being loaded when you develop your application. And last but not least, it's also about the code and the security of code yourself. But we're also going to see the adoption of standards, especially when it comes to the software bill of materials. Standards are extremely important, like SPDX, like SignDX, so that there is a form of transfer possible, so I can communicate with my vendor, or my vendor can communicate with me, or the customers can communicate to each other, sending software bill of materials that eventually lead to much better vulnerability scanning, compliance scanning, and eventually, of course, then also to the security of your whole software supply chain.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Doiron, Senior Director of Solution Marketing at Infinera. It's hard to believe it's prediction time again, but that's where we're at. From the access edge to metro, long haul, and submarine networks, traffic growth is putting incredible pressure on our networks. In a 2021 ACG research report, service providers are anticipating annual growth rates in the various segments of their networks ranging from 46% in residential broadband to 39% in submarine. Metro, long haul, 5G transport, and data center interconnect are all experiencing similar growth. To help network operators cost effectively meet this level of sustained traffic growth, we expect 2022 to see accelerating adoption of 800 gig coherent DWDM embedded optical engines like Infinera's i6. In a heavy reading research report, 53% of service providers indicate that they plan to deploy 800 gig embedded optics in their network through 2023, with 12% indicating that they were already deploying in 2021. The combination of programmability and advanced technologies like 96 gigabaud symbol rates, second generation digital subcarriers, and long code word probabilistic constellation shaping is enabling superior performance versus prior generations of technology at 800 gigabit per second, but also at 700, 600, and 400 as well. Programmability means 800 gig transmission technology is applicable to more networks at any reach, including fixed grid or flex grid channel spacings, as well as legacy and modern fiber optic cables. The ability to provide increased capacity per fiber with fewer wavelengths and less equipment creates compelling economics for accelerated 800 gig adoption in submarine, long-haul, DCI, and metro networks with limited fiber availability. In closing, I wish you safety, happiness, and much success in 2022.